A new series I've started on my channel recently is going over the timelines of certain Arrowverse characters. So far, I've done Batman, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, and Superman. If you want to check out those videos, there'll be a link in the top right corner of this video to a playlist to all of my timeline videos. Now, one character in the Arrowverse who has a very interesting timeline is Eobard Thawne. In this video, I'll go over the timeline of Eobard Thawne, aka the Reverse Flash, based off things we know so far, and also with me filling in the gaps of what we don't know while it still makes sense. Now, Eobard Thawne, considering he time travels, does not have a linear timeline, so I'm not going to go year by year. The timeline will be in the perspective of Eobard Thawne, and also it won't just be one timeline; it will be a couple of them, including an alternate version of Eobard Thawne, which is the time remnant we saw in Legends of Tomorrow Season 2. With that in mind, this might get a little convoluted, it might get a little confusing, but hopefully it all makes sense in the end. So let's begin with not the birth of Eobard Thawne, but the creation of the Flash. This is the original timeline in which, in the year 2020, Harrison Wells and Tess Mercer finished their work on the particle accelerator, which went off and created the Flash as it gave Barry Allen his powers. So that was the beginning of Eobard Thawne's timeline, 131 years before he was born, as in the year 2151, Eobard Thawne is born. In the year 2171, growing up an avid fan of The Flash, Eobard Thawne has recently tried to recreate the accident that gave Barry his powers. He doesn't know it's Barry, but giving the Flash his powers, which is the particle accelerator explosion. Being a genius in the future, Eobard, over the course of the final years of his teenage years, as well as the early years of adulthood, he manages to recreate the particle accelerator and recreate the explosion, giving himself abilities including super speed. So in the year 2172, Eobard Thawne becomes the Flash of the future, as that was his main goal. Being a huge fan of the Flash growing up, he always wanted to be the Flash, so that's what happened in the year 2172, and that's something that was mentioned during The Flash, the TV show. Eobard Thawne always wanted to be the Flash, and I'll get to when he becomes the Reverse Flash in just a little bit. So in the future, Eobard Thawne begins to fight crime as the Flash. However, due to a general lack of crime in the future, Eobard begins to create fake crimes to appear as a hero, as he believed that even without the crime, the world needed the Flash, and that's how he justified it to himself. In the year 2021, Barry Allen learns to time travel, similar to how he learned to time travel in the timeline we saw on the show, a year after, or like the next year from when he got his powers. The same thing would be in the original timeline. So in the year 2021, Barry Allen learns to time travel and accidentally travels to the year 2173. So then in the year 2173, Barry Allen accidentally travels to this time as the Flash. Eobard is obviously ecstatic to meet his hero until Barry Allen finds out about Thawne's fabricated crimes. Barry puts a stop to Eobard's career as the Flash, and because of this, Eobard begins to hate him. Barry manages to travel back to the present while Eobard is locked up in prison, given, let's say, a 7-year sentence. Then, in the year 2180, after 7 years of serving prison time and vowing revenge against the Flash, Eobard is released from prison. Eobard goes to the Flash Museum and reads up on the Flash's whole life. This is either when he learns about Dawn Allen, which is how he knew about her when Nora and Barry went back to Season 1 during Season 5, or maybe he already knew about her beforehand. It doesn't matter, but what he does learn here is he sees an exhibit that he's never seen before, an exhibit about the arch enemy of the Flash, the Reverse Flash, which is an exhibit that either was never there, or if something was added that he's never seen before, which is that the Reverse Flash's name is Eobard Thawne. This is something that was mentioned on the show, that he learned that he was always destined to become the archenemy of the Flash, and this is how it happens in the comics, as he looks at the exhibit of the Reverse Flash and realizes that his name is the same as the Reverse Flash's. Anyway, this shows Eobard that he's destined to become the Flash's archenemy, so Thawne becomes the Reverse Flash with his powers and also his new title. He travels back to the year 2022 to go up against the Flash yet again. And this is where we see the events of the Flash Season 2 episode, The Reverse Flash Returns, as Eobard Thawne returns to the Flash's present day, and more significantly than anything else, learns about Star Labs, and even more significantly, Harrison Wells, through Harry Wells. Now, the fact that in the original timeline, Barry didn't become the Flash until 2020, 4 years after this supposedly happened, it means that this could not have happened in the present day or in the original timeline unless it happened a couple years later. If this happened 2 years after Barry became the Flash in the timeline timeline we saw on the show, then it could definitely have happened the same way in the original timeline as in the year 2020. Barry became the Flash. 2 years later, in the year 2022, Eobard Thawne returns to the present day of the Flash and learns about Star Labs and Harrison Wells. So all of that happens in the year 2022, but in this timeline, Eobard is then trapped in the present day and becomes a recurring enemy of the Flash. So, between the years 2022 and 2024, the Flash and the Reverse Flash are arch enemies of each other, and they go up against each other countless times. That is until the year 2024, when the crisis happens. The Anti-Monitor comes to destroy Earth-1, and during this, Eobard Thawne leads an army of shadow demons, but once he learns Barry's identity, decides to go back to the year 2000 to kill Barry. As a kid, the Flash follows him and saves his younger self, and now enraged Eobard Thawne decides that instead of killing Barry as a kid and erasing his present self from existence, he'll give a younger Barry such a big tragedy that it'll make the future Barry never become the Flash. So he decides to kill Barry's mother, and also inadvertently frame the father of Barry Allen. So this creates the new timeline in which Barry never became the Flash. So the Barry we see in the year 2024 and then the Barry we see in the year 2000 gets erased from existence, and Eobard Thawne loses his powers and gets stuck in the year 2000, which creates a new timeline. And this is the timeline that the show mainly focuses on prior to Flashpoint. In the year 2000, Eobard realizes that he'll never be able to return to his present if Barry Allen never becomes the Flash, because then he'll never become the Reverse Flash and never get his powers. So he decides to speed up the process of Barry Allen becoming the Flash, but also make sure that Barry Allen actually does become the Flash. So he tracks down Harrison Wells, kills him and his wife, and takes over as Harrison Wells without anybody ever knowing that Harrison Wells died. Then, between the year 2000 and 2013, Harrison sets up Star Labs in Central City and begins work on the particle accelerator. To help him, he hires the likes of Harley Rathaway, Caitlin Snow, Ronnie Raymond, as well as Cisco Ramon. The reason it took him so much longer in this timeline than in the original timeline to create the particle accelerator, and I mean Eobard Thawne, not Harrison Wells, is because the original timeline, when he actually got his powers, he created the particle accelerator 140 years in the future, compared to this, which is obviously the technology is way more advanced, so it wouldn't really take him as long to create it. But here in the 21st century, in the early 21st century, it would take him a lot longer, so it takes him actually 13 years, but it is still 6 years or 7 years shorter than it took the original Harrison Wells. Anyway, in the year 2013, Harley Rathaway warns Harrison that the accelerator won't work, and Wells has him fired. Finally, in December 2013, Eobard completes the particle accelerator and turns it on. The accelerator malfunctions as it was supposed to, at least for Eobard, and releases a wave of dark matter that hits a lightning bolt that Barry Allen is struck by, putting him in a coma, but also infusing him with Speed Force energy. When the particle accelerator actually went off, Eobard, as Harrison Wells, made everybody believe that he was hit by it as well and that it paralyzed him from the waist down. He did this so that he could sit in a wheelchair that would charge up his Speed Force energy, or rather his negative Speed Force energy, without anybody questioning why he's always in a wheelchair. Anyway, in October 2014, Barry Allen wakes up from his coma, discovers his powers, and becomes the Flash. Between October 2014 and December 2014, Wells helps Barry become the Flash and take down multiple bad guys, including the likes of Captain Cold and a bunch of others. Anyway, then in December 2014, Thawne returns to being the Reverse Flash, fighting Barry and telling them that he's destined to beat him, and after this, he leaves for a while. And I obviously mean Reverse Flash as the Reverse Flash, not Harrison Wells himself. Anyway, in the year 2015, Barry Allen and Nora West Allen return from the year 2018 to get Harrison Wells' help, which is when Harrison Wells learns about Cicada, as well as Nora herself. Team Flash then begins to suspect that Harrison Wells isn't who he says he is, and that he's the man who killed Barry's mother. This is confirmed to them, and in the end of the season, in around May 2015, Eobard goes up against the Flash with the help of the Arrow and Firestorm all at the same time, and he ends up losing. He's then captured by the Flash, and he explains to the Flash a large portion of the origin story that I just went over up until this point. He also explains that he wants to return to his present day, and that if Barry helps him, he will be able to save his own mother. So Barry travels to the past while Eobard attempts to travel to the future. After witnessing the death of his mother and seeing the Flash from the original timeline tell him not to do anything, Barry Allen decides not to save his mother and returns to stop Eobard Thawne. They have a fight during which Eddie, Eobard Thawne's ancestor, kills himself, which erases Thawne from existence. Using the negative speed force, Eobard Thawne survives this erasure and becomes sort of a paradox, but is still alive. Then in the year 2017, he allies himself with the Earth X Nazis. This is the Eobard Thawne after he was quote-unquote erased from existence, but after allying himself with the Earth X Nazis, he's defeated and basically just let go by the Flash. Then in the year 2024, the crisis happens and Barry vanishes. In the year 2034, Eobard Thawne is somehow imprisoned and sentenced to death. Thawne spends 15 years on death row, with Cicada's dagger being used to suppress his powers. In the year 2049, the daughter of Barry Allen, Nora West Allen, discovers her abilities and goes to Thawne for guidance. She does know that Thawne was the Reverse Flash, the archenemy of the Flash, but she never knew that Thawne actually killed her grandmother. Thawne uses her as an opportunity to escape. He manipulates Nora into returning to the present day and changing the timeline, which all leads up to the destruction of Cicada's dagger. Because there was nothing to actually suppress his powers, this sets Thawne free seconds before he's actually executed, and this creates a new timeline. Counting the Flashpoint timeline, this would be counting the post-Flashpoint timeline, actually, this would be the fourth timeline. In this timeline, which is technically the fourth timeline, but the third timeline in Reverse Flash's perspective, in the year 2049, Team Flash arrived to stop Thawne from escaping, which is when Nora is erased from existence. She's told by Eobard that she can use the negative speed force to save her, but she decides against this, and she is actually erased. Then Eobard escapes, saying that he'll see Barry in the crisis. Then 30 years before this, in the year 2019, after the new timeline made it so that the crisis happened 5 years early, the Anti-Monitor comes to Earth 1 to destroy it, and this is when the crisis actually happens. And this is the end of the Eobard Thawne timeline that we know so far, but there is another timeline for technically another character, which is the only version of Eobard Thawne that has a connection to the Flashpoint timeline, and that's Eobard Thawne's Time Remnant. This timeline has way too much time travel to actually mention the years, as they are completely irrelevant except for 1 year, and that's 2016, as in the year 2016, Zoom kills Barry's father. Barry decides to go back to the year 2000 to save his mother from being killed, which creates the Flashpoint timeline. Barry takes Thawne from this timeline to the present day, and this creates the Eobard Thawne Time Remnant. Thawne names the new timeline Flashpoint, and after a while, Barry takes Thawne to kill his mother again, realizing that the Flashpoint timeline has to be reversed. After killing Barry's mother, he goes to the present day, which would be 2016, and finds that he's being hunted by the Black Flash. Thawne sets out to find the Spear of Destiny to change reality so that the Black Flash wouldn't be chasing him anymore, so that he can actually live. After forming the Legion of Doom along with Malcolm Merlyn and Damien Dark, and also facing off against the Legends, Eobard brings together the Spear of Destiny, scattered throughout time by Rip Hunter, killing multiple members of the Justice Society of America in the process, including Hourman, Dr. Midnight, as well as being responsible for the death of Commander Steel. Eobard changes reality with the Spear of Destiny to a new reality called Doom World, where the Black Flash is locked in a cage. The Legends don't remember that they are the heroes that they were, and the Flash, Green Arrow, and the rest of the Vigilantes are all dead. Nate Haywood actually realizes the changes to reality, which doesn't make any sense, but whatever, go with it, and brings together the former Legends. This led to a final confrontation with the Reverse Flash, where the Legends go back to a time where their past selves were there as well, as Thawne kills a lot of them. Sarah uses the Spear of Destiny to rid the Spear of its power, change everything back to normal, and bring Black Flash to where Eobard Thawne is. Black Flash manages to kill Eobard, and this time his erasure from existence is permanent because he's directly killed by the Reverse Flash. He wasn't able to use the negative Speed Force to survive, and that's the end of the Eobard Thawne Time Remnant timeline. However, somehow, someway, even though it doesn't make much sense, Eobard Thawne from this timeline was actually able to remember all the events of The Flash Season 1, maybe because of the Speed Force language or whatever that they mentioned in Season 5 or something, because this was a timeline where the events of Season 1 never happened to Eobard Thawne, so either that's a plot hole, or that's because of the Speed Force language, the timeline language from Season 5. Anyway, those are the timelines of Eobard Thawne, and also Eobard Thawne's Time Remnant on The Flash. What do you think about these timelines? What would you change about them, and what do you think I got right or wrong? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.